Welcome. You're watching the Market Wrap on Bloomberg Quint Live. Let's take a look at how the markets have fared today and what they've done through the course of the week. I'm going to start off with how markets have panned out today. And there is, so this is, of course, through the course of the week, we are seeing about a decline around 1%, despite the fact that we've actually seen a lot of volatility come through. And of course, in terms of the key gainers, through the course of the week, we have Yes Bank, Zee Entertainment, and Asian Paints. All three of these counters on the Nifty 50 advancing by well over 10 to 15%. On the losing end, weakness isn't as much, despite the fact that the indices have come off quite substantially. You have UPL, HDFC, Adani Ports, along with Coal India, losing out anywhere between 5 and 7%. So while we have seen a lot of volatility, the picture on the benchmark doesn't look that bad. But let's take a look at the NSE 500, that is the broader market index. This, of course, okay, so this is a mid-cap index, and this is where we're seeing losses which are a little deeper in comparison to the benchmarks, where we do have the likes of Reliance Infra, Graphite India, and Torrent Pharma advancing in trade by gaining by as much as 10 to 18% through the course of the week. On the losing end, however, we also have Mahindra and Mahindra Financial Services, bucking under pressure on account of poor earnings. Future Consumer, Group Finance, and L&T Technology Services all declining in trade. Let's move on and talk about some other factors, and based on that, at least as far as today is concerned, there was a little bit of respite which came through, and of course the Nifty did close in the green. That, of course, is a positive after the kind of weakness that we've seen through the course of the week. So we should have the Nifty 50, gainers, losers up for you on screen. There you have it. That's right there. So a very, very sharp up move for Yes Bank. Had it not been for today's day of trade, we would have actually seen that as a major decline on the weekly basis. Bajaj Finance and Bajaj Finserv also looking at a little bit of a recovery there after the kind of losses that they did suffer yesterday. On the losing end, Vedanta under pressure, as it was the case for Indian Oil Corp, Reliance Industries, and Tech Mahindra. Reliance Industries essentially about heavyweight, single-handedly putting pressure on the indices. To talk about your broader market index then, and to see how your mid-caps have done specifically in today's day of trade, to see whether or not there has been a little bit of recovery. And okay, this is the small cap index, and the small cap index is actually flat right now, a marginal weakness. But even in the small cap index, we have a lot of weakness in Bajaj Electricals, BSE Limited, VIP Industries, and NIT Technologies. VIP Industries will be coming out with earnings in the subsequent weeks, and we'll be watching out for earnings there because it's a very important mid-cap out there. And of course, on the gaining end, we have Philips Carbon Black also advancing in trade. Now, this is as far as how indices have performed through the course of the week. Let's take a look at all the events that have actually moved the markets. And of course, there are quite a few. Besides the fact that we are looking at a lot of earnings and they very well have moved the markets, we're also keeping an eye on several other things that will happen. So we have NHB rules which are out in subvention scheme. So that, of course, came out on Monday and possibly influence the economy as well. HUL has reported a 7% volumes growth. The lowest, actually this is 5%, but they did record a 7% revenue growth. The volumes was at 5%. And of course, we also had a big reshuffle in terms of various secretaries under different portfolios. And of course, we understand that Subhash Garg will be moving out of the economics affairs portfolios. So of course, the government has also said to have rethink the dollar bond issue. And of course, this is a developing issue. This is a developing story. So we're going to continue to give you an idea about the same. Kane India has had unwound structured investments in Anglo-American. Of course, this is what we had today. Largely on account of that, despite the fact that the news was positive, we saw Vedanta end in the red. And of course, we also had Maruti Suzuki and Bajaj Auto largely meet expectations. Of course, there was weakness that was evident in the volumes numbers that we have seen for the quarter gone by. This is as far as your week gone by is concerned. Let's take a look at what we're keeping an eye on in terms of levels based on your options. And this time around, as we move into the new expiry, we do have a lot of accumulation in the 11,000 put. Fair enough. That's something that we were expecting, considering the kind of weakness that we saw over the previous few days. But on the upper end, we really don't have too much to go for, which many would consider as a positive, because the markets for now are still trying to look for and, well, perhaps settle on an upper level, and this of course is a positive, considering while many may suggest that 11,500 for now has max OI, you never know, it could very well shift higher up should we see the markets move up higher. So that's as far as your range is concerned. Currently a 500-point range between 11,000 on the lower end and 11,500 on the upper end. But moving on to, well, several other factors that we're going to watch out for next week. So starting off with the events, and of course, well, earnings will be an important event to watch out for. On Mondays we will have Dr. Reddy's. Keeping an eye on this one. 3 earnings on Tuesday, and we will have Axis Bank, Hero MotoCorp and Tech Mahindra, all very important to the economy. Of course, Eicher Motors, Indian Oil Corp and UPL will announce earnings on Wednesday, and then on Thursday we have Bharti Airtel, which has again been in the news of late. And on Friday again some very key earnings. So we have HDFC Limited, ITC and State Bank of India, and it's going to be another earnings heavy week, as is the case of when it comes to, well, the second, third week of the first month of the earnings season. So we'll be watching out for some of these names too, and some very important ones, because they will drive the indices going forward. But besides earnings, we're also keeping an eye on several other events, and in terms of events, we're also keeping an eye on, of course, the macro data. So we will have the India fiscal deficit until June will release on Tuesday. And on Wednesday, we will have core sector data for June as well. This is pertaining to, well, domestic markets. What about, well, global markets? For that, we will have Bank of Japan rate decision on Tuesday, and of course the FOMC meet, the rate decision on Wednesday. Well, there are all sorts of numbers out there, but this is going to be a little more important when it comes to global markets, it may have implications on emerging markets and the fund flow in countries like our own. So we'll be watching out for that one as well. So we'll have plenty to watch out for out there in terms of earnings, as well as, well, events not only in India but abroad as well, which may very well move markets in general. So we'll be watching out for a whole host of factors as we move into trade next week. On that note, it's a wrap on the markets, but there is lots more lined up. Stay tuned to Bloomberg Quint, and we'll keep bringing you more.